This is John for the Everyday Fan. Today I'm on the beat with John Cosper, one of my favorite authors, whether he's discussing wrestling, whether he's discussing fiction. I love this guy. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about happy New Year to you, sir?
Happy New Year to you. It's nice to end the year with discussing everything that's going on with you and what's coming up for you. Let's
Oh my
jump
God.
in, man. Give
Yeah.
me a
So
quick update on what's going on.
yeah. So well, I haven't had a release since I think January last year was when I put June Buyers out. So it's been kind of a slow year. It's really just been a slow year for book sales anyway. I think just the economy and everything, and all the other wrestling writers I know of, and all the other indie publishers I know of. I've had kind of so I guess if I'm going to have a down year, not release anything. This would be the one. But yeah, very excited. Early half of this year, there could be as many as four books coming out, three wrestling and one fiction. So um, tell you what I've been doing. First of all, legendary Larry D, former TNA superstar, a legend at IWA Mid South, Rockstar Pro, you name it in the Midwest or in the Kentucky area. He's been there. He's done that. He is the co-founder of Legends Pro Wrestling Academy with Max Sled down there in Georgetown, Kentucky. Just a great guy. We're calling the title. I think the title is going to be Best Hand in the House, which I mean, no better way to describe Larry D if you know Larry. But yeah, great life story. He messaged me a couple years ago and said, "Hey, at some point when I get ready to retire, I want to write a book. Would you help me?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we connected last year, right around the time of his retirement match in November, when he did the honors to Moose at his retirement show. Packed gymnasium down there in Cynthiana, Kentucky. Amazing show, top to bottom. Guys like Jake Christ, Aaron Williams, Drew Dillinger, Shane Mercer. A lot of guys showed up for this one to show their support, show their love for Larry. Larry had his retirement match. We started working on his autobiography in about February. Lo and behold, around July, he came out of retirement because no, he's retired in pro wrestling. He really did. Man, Larry's been through a lot last couple of years. His family's house burned down, lost his father, and then a year later lost his mother. So he's been through a lot of tragedy, a lot of hardship. Got a great family, really strong, strong roots down there in Kentucky. He's just an outstanding trainer and teacher. Friend of mine, I'll name drop Lisa Hanson, fellow New Albany High School Bulldog. We graduated together many moons ago. But she actually went to him and she became a fan because of her son. And she went to him and trained to be a ring announcer. She's now a licensed ring announcer in the state of Kentucky. He's got a couple of great kids coming up, Kellen Craven and Jackie Thad, two guys you should really be on the lookout for. Alexis Littlefoot as well, starting to make some moves. And he's got a lot of great talent coming out of that area. But that'll be my first release, probably January, February, whatever I can get him to. We just need to get some photos in the book. We need to get one for the cover, and then we need to get it edited, and we'll be ready to go.
Well, I'm excited. As I said, I am a big fan of your books. Just to prove it, in case anybody doubts it, I've got like five of them here.
Dang,
Got the
there we
Charlie
go.
Cool book, I got the Dead Park series, and I got the Space
Space
Monster.
Monster. Yeah.
I know I have some other ones on the bookshelf, but I just thought of bringing these out the last minute. So, give me an update on Dead Park.
Dead Park. So Dead Park Book 5 is pretty much ready. If you're not familiar with Dead Park, so the Dead Park series started coming up on almost 4 years ago, and it was really triggered by a text that came from my dad. Last text that my dad ever sent me. He went to the hospital a couple days after, and then we lost him fairly quickly after that. But he had this weird dream, and it was this idea he had for, he's like, I think this would be a great idea for a story. And a couple months after he passed, I realized that that story and a couple others is like, wait a minute, got all these ideas for horror stories, and they all take place in an office building. So it started as a trilogy of stories for one book, and then it grew to a bunch of stories in one book. And then it expanded out to the shopping mall next door. It expanded out to you just had Dead Park Estates up there, the neighborhood. So yeah, there's four books out now. Um, Website is deadparkbooks.com where you can find all of those. But Dead Park 5 is going back to the office. More stories in the office. I did not expect to write another book focused on any one of the three locations specifically. I've got some other stories that I'm wanting to tell down the road. But yeah, this one took me back to the office. All of a sudden, there were more office horror stories. I guess when you work in a cubicle for many, many years, uh, ideas just start to come to you. I was talking to somebody earlier, about, it's a tricky thing with writers. And I was telling my wife the other day, I made the conscious decision years ago not to write about my personal relationships because that's what got Neil Simon married and divorced 5 times. I'm writing, continuing to write about his wives, but exes and former coworkers, fair game. So and not that there's, that there's more of that, I think, in the first Dead Park book. But like I said, this one goes back to the office. Some crazy wild stories, a few little things that kind of lead into the later books. I'm already working on Dead Park 6. I've got ideas for Dead Park 7. Lately, I've been thinking possibly about an eighth book that might not necessarily be part of the series, but just some additional stories from the Dead Park realm. But yeah, just to give you some backstory for those who aren't familiar with it. So Dead Park is a community. Dead Park is the nickname. Its real name is Lead Park. It used to be an army munitions plant where something very evil and very strange was going on. The U.S. government had some sort of secret arrangement with some sort of evil presence or evil person or whatever, still kind of undefined from another dimension. There's just like the Hellmouth in Sunnydale, there's a portal. There's all these evil coming out of it. Cryptids are already part of this universe. Vampires, zombies, no ghosts. There are no ghosts in Dead Park, and that's explained in one of the books why there are no ghosts in Dead Park. The ghosts really just don't want anything to do with the place. It's kind of that kind of a place. It's fun to, I've tied in one of my other books as well. In Dead Park Estates, there's a tie into the book Die, Ellen Die, which is more of a sci-fi story that I wrote a couple years before, but it just kind of fit, it was just kind of, that's been the fun of this series is just kind of just one idea leads to another. And just what's the craziest thing I can think of that would be in this evil neighborhood? What kind of people live here? What kind of strange things do they find in their houses when they move in? What kind of strange things would you find at a yard sale if you drove through Dead Park Estates on yard sale day? Things like that. And, again, just going back to the office was a lot of fun. What if you were in the file room and you saw a file cabinet that, all these file cabinets, bills, invoices, whatever, and one just labeled Dragon. Go open that file. What's in that file? It's not too hard to figure out where that one goes.
Yeah, a
You
little
know,
bit.
and then just there's one that I particularly love. Where there's a couple of people. The guy comes to audit the books. The tax man. He just happens to come on the wrong day, and the tax man is just used to people pranking him and messing with him and stuff like that because nobody likes the tax man. And there's something going on with the employees in the other room, and they're trying to hide something from him, and he doesn't know. Probably one of my favorite stories that I've written. And actually, my dog, who's over there sitting on the couch at the moment, has a cameo in that. His name is
Awesome.
Charlie. We nicknamed him Charles. He has a much larger role in Dead Park 6. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Just I'll go ahead and let you and your listeners know. Dead Park 6 is really about the military base. It's going back into the history of Dead Park before it was a mall, before it was an office building, and actually told from kind of a different perspective. But we get to find out a little bit about some of the things that were happening there, some of the experiments that happened, what some of the impact was on the community as well as beyond the community, and just some interesting insights as to what went on before this community was established in the most evil plot of land in the U.S.
The thing is, I will admit, I'm not a huge fan of short stories or book of short stories. And I've told you this, I've said it to every interview we do. I love the Dead Park stories. The thing I like about them is they are horror stories. You sprinkle in some quirky humor. But the thing that I really like is a lot of times when writers do short stories, they tend to kind of fall into traps. Each one of these is different. It's like I never know where it's going. Sometimes I have an idea and it goes way off, but I mean, way off in a good way. I just love the books, and like I've shown them 4 books in, the only 4 books of those that you've written. I love them all. I wouldn't even be able to pick which one's my favorite. I think they're really fantastic. And I'm always bugging you. When's the next one coming out? When's the next one? You said 5, you said 6. Maybe there's more. I say the more the merrier because I know you're talented. I know what you're doing with these, and I just think there's such a wealth of possibilities. So I just hope you keep it going, man.
Thank you, thank you. I really do enjoy writing these and just seeing where they go, and as you said, just trying to take an idea, but just go as far left field as you possibly can with it, and take things in different directions, and twist people's expectations around, and it's I'm honestly surprised that I'm here working on book six, and I think I'm delaying myself getting into book seven, although that one's starting to come together a little more. It's going to be really more of one full length story like Dead Park 3 was. Just kind of bringing things together, wrapping things up. If you've read some of the books, particularly the end of Dead Park Estates, you probably know where at least part of that story is going to take place even further in the past. So, but yeah, it's just so much, I mean, it's couple, just a couple examples top of my head. So, the one idea I had for years and years was, and it's in the first book, Dead Park Plaza, just it's not even a spoof of Lord of the Flies because I didn't read Lord of the Flies. But what if my idea for it was just Lord of the Files, and what happens if the boss dies and the whole office goes tribal and they go to war with each other, and just how different departments would interact with each other, who would take charge and who would, oppose them and this and that, and the real fun one when there's a lot of fun ones, but in the Shops at Dead Park, one of the ones I think that kicks it off, where somebody finds out your wildest dream is going to come true, and we all think, oh, my wildest dream is I'm going to meet the man of my dreams. No, 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 not. It's what your wildest dream total, including the nightmares, and of course, the worst nightmare is what comes to be. But just yeah, just go playing with those expectations and the fun little, like for example, continuing to throw tributes to my dad in there. There's the story about the video store in the Shops at Dead Park and a haunted RCA Select Division machine. You and I are old enough to remember what the Select Division,
Yes.
the
Yes.
precursor even to the laser disc. I've got four of, I've got no, I've got five of them on the shelf over there. L. James Bond,
Oh.
my James Bond shelf. So happen to come across just their decorations because there's nothing to play them on, But what if there's a cursed Select Division machine, and the characters from the movies you watch, came into real life. So, we have, prom queens running around with chainsaws. We got a character. Actually, the character was the Charlie Cruel book that you had just up there. That was the original version of that story, and then um, the Amish serial killer doing figure eights in the parking lot, slowly running over some. Just yeah, again, just what's the wildest, craziest idea, and how does it fit into a story? And for me, Dead Park, the ideas just keep coming, and it's just like, okay, well, how does this fit into this universe? And I had a couple days ago on Twitter, I posted, there was a story I'd worked on for 4 months on Dead Park 6, and I finally finished it. It's like, this doesn't work. This isn't working. I took it out. And then 3 days later, I realized, oh, the story goes at the end of the book, and there's one change to the plot that needs to happen. So, but just finding how the puzzle pieces go together is often a lot of fun.
I love that process. So moving on from the fiction, let's go into the wrestling. You mentioned one wrestling book. I know you're working on some others. Could you discuss any of it?
Sure, yeah. So one that should have been out last year and it didn't happen because this guy got a big break this year. But Jesse Goddard and I worked on his autobiography. We've got it pretty much done. I imagine we're going to add an extra chapter or two because if you haven't been watching he was on House of Villains season 2 this year. As I understand it, he didn't win, but he did come out kind of as the big. I mean, I can't imagine somebody being a worse villain at the end of a show than he was. So Jesse really made an impression, but which is funny to me because I know Jesse Goddard, I know the real Jesse Goddard, and there's not a nicer, kinder, better guy in the world to know and work with, which is why he keeps getting these great opportunities. So we were literally days away from releasing his book. He signed on to do the show, and we had to postpone the book because of that. But Jesse's book will be coming out hopefully in the next year. I saw him a couple weeks ago. He's come back to OVW, looks as good as ever. Sharp as ever, and I'm excited to tell his story. It's a real, it's a real story about if you work hard, if you're determined, and if you're a good person, because for him it's all about networking and it's all about doing right by the people that give you opportunities. Then it's a it's a great inspirational story in that regard. And then the big one, the big one that I've been working on all year is Grindhouse, Grindhouse Pro Wrestling Academy down here in Jeffersonville, Indiana. I started following them last January with their Rumble 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 show, which is, everybody has their version of the Royal Rumble in January. And the book will actually end at the start of the Royal Rumble, or the Rumble Rumble, excuse me, that takes place just here in a couple weeks in Jeffersonville. But I've been following this school for the year. I've been going to classes. I've been hanging out in the locker rooms. I've been getting to know all the kids that are working there, all the kids that come in from everywhere else, just wanting to get a chance, wanting to get on the card. I watched the Techno Cowboy from Ohio. He came in, he rode in with somebody. They gave him a break. He's now the GrindhouseProWrestling.com champion. I watched one of the, really, really inspiring stories this year was a guy was part of a tag team, and then his tag team partner unfortunately had to step away for a little bit. But Robert Ketchum has caught fire. Robert Ketchum is going to be somebody that's going to make a huge splash in this next year. Hilarious, will do anything in the ring. Ultra violent, doesn't mind getting cut up, doesn't mind getting knocked around, but at the same time, super smart about the business. Somebody you can put in there with somebody new, he'll make them look like gold. He'll take care of them. He'll make them better. Um, just a real great ring general, I think, and a tremendously entertaining personality who's a threat to steal any show. Kevo Thrives is starting to get out there. He's one of the older students they've had around for a while. He's really starting to get out there and try to make some waves. Vanessa Holiday. Vanessa had kind of a renaissance over the summer. This was really her first full year in pro wrestling. It's been a long time dream that kind of got derailed for a while. She came back to it. She's really kind of found herself. She's an outstanding performer in the ring and outside of the ring. And she's really got a bright future ahead of her. You and I've talked about Miss Larkin, the lovely Miss Larkin.
Yep.
I think one of the most ready-made for television or whatever personalities I have ever seen in pro wrestling. Her promos are off the chain. Her ring work continues to improve. And I can tell you too, anybody who's out there is like, is this really somebody I should book? Is she really this person? I mean, this character, that Larkin character, is very much a lot about who she is, but she's a true pro. She's, absolute professional. She's traveled all over. I think she's probably logged more miles than anybody, except maybe Dallas Edwards, who I'll get to here in a minute, than anybody else who's worked at Grindhouse. I mean, she's been all over Texas. She's been all over the South. I think more and more doors are going to fly open for her. She is a true pro. I've used her on a couple of voiceovers for some Meat Sleep Wrestle promos recently. She
Cool.
did outstanding work when I needed a little bit, some revisions and stuff. No problem. She got them done real quick. A real pro, and a delight to talk to, somebody who just really loves this business. So, I mentioned Dallas a moment ago. Dallas is a referee, largely by trade. He can wrestle, and he's an outstanding wrestler. He's also, I just recently found, a former child star. If you, and continues to be an aspiring actor. If you remember the show Schooled, that was a spinoff of the
Yeah.
Goldberg last of the
Yeah.
season. Yeah, he was one of the students
Oh,
in
wow.
school. So, and just an awesome kid. Unfortunately, he was the referee in the ring of the match with cocaine that Dustin Rhodes was condemning on Twitter, and everybody who's involved in this match should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah.
Ethan Heyer jumped all over that one and everything. And that leads me to Ethan Heyer. Ethan Heyer is, if he's 5 foot, then I'm Donald Duck. Uh, Ethan he calls himself Mr. Larger Than Life. He is larger than life. I think Ethan could have a great match with anybody. I know one super heavyweight in particular that really wants a match with Ethan Heyer because he knows Ethan can make him look great. He can make Ethan look great. Everything he does, every move he does, every hold, every facial expression, this kid is 100% the real deal. He's a phenomenal performer in the ring, and a guy who I don't think his size is going to hold him back. I think he's got a really bright future in this business. But yeah, I mean, and that's just a handful of them. I mean, there's probably 30 or 40 of them. I could go on and tell you something about each and every one of them. Um, the kids that are coming up that started training this past year probably will be making their debuts up here at the Rumble Rumble. Some guys like Brandon Wolf who have come from the outside and have found a home at Grindhouse. Guys like Cash Jackson who were born, raised up and trained right here at Grindhouse. It's really been an interesting journey just to watch these kids grow and evolve, to watch them kind of discover who they are. I watched these three guys. They're going to be I'll go ahead and drop their names there: Cyrus Riley, Ugly Boy, and Bezier Price. They've all already worked for Sam Crosby at Strictly Insane Wrestling in Illinois. They'll be
Yeah.
making a debut for Grindhouse here soon. I've watched them go from taking their first bumps, from struggling to do a forward flip, to where they've got confidence, they've got, they're getting their bodies in shape, they're getting their cardio up. I've watched them carry in a lot of, 12 packs and bags of ice to the concession stand and set up a lot of chairs and tear down a lot of chairs. And only once or twice I had to set up and tear down a ring because Grindhouse is one of those rare places where that ring stays up pretty much all the time.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But it's been a neat journey to watch this, to watch Reverend Ronnie Roberts, who some people may know from the Netflix Wrestlers show. He's actually a Larry D student. He was trained by Larry
Oh,
D. So
okay.
listening to Larry Train is a lot like listening to Ronnie Train. I hear the exact same things, out of both of their mouths. And um, but watching him work people through things and watching him say, well, let's figure out how we're going to make this work. If a kid says, I can't do this, I can't work with that person, he's like, you absolutely can. And Ronnie's got the authority to say that because Ronnie Roberts had two guys feuding with each other for a couple of months. One of them is legally blind and
Wow.
one of them is deaf.
Wow. Wow.
In fact, the deaf wrestler, this was Ram Jam from the Deaf World Order here at Grindhouse. He and his brother are known as the Deaf World Order, but he was trained over at OVW by Nick Dinsmore. He heard about Darren the Inspirer, who was trained by Ronnie Roberts, who was blind, and contacted Ronnie and said, I want to come over and have a feud. Do you think a deaf man can wrestle a blind man? And Ronnie's reaction was, let's figure it out. Let's make it happen.
Wow.
They had
That's
multiple
awesome.
matches. Can you imagine? So, but yeah, just the amazing things that I've seen there, and to watch kids come in. Yeah, I mentioned Techno Cowboy a while ago. Another kid named Chug Boffman came in a while back from Carrollton, Kentucky. Is starting to catch on with the fans. They hate him, but they're supposed to hate him. He's a heel.
Yeah.
Um,
So
you
it
know,
works.
watching other kids come in and debut. My buddy Reese Ramon came down here. She had a great match with Miss Larkin, and yeah, and like I said, it's just kind of interesting to follow a school, to to see them put the shows together, to see how Ronnie pivots when somebody is a no show, and oh, we got to fill a hole here. What are we going to do? How do we keep this story going without this person being present? And again, just the lessons learned. The lessons learned on the shows as well as the lessons learned in class. And watching these kids struggle to, I was like, well, how do I get over? It's like you got to do this, you got to do that, and watching them try different things and watching certain ones of them start to finally click and finally realize, oh, hey, this is starting to work. And seeing a guy like Mr. Showbiz, who works as a manager here, has physical disabilities that really kind of hamper him. He really couldn't get in the ring and do anything. But I watched him take bumps. I watched him get busted open hard way at the last show. And I watched this kid who's kind of a soft-spoken, kind of laid-back kid. He's a very serious science fiction horror writer. Not a science fiction. He's more of a horror writer, more of a true horror writer than I am, I'll say. But I mean, watching him kind of come to life and watching him become the scary manager. When he first started coming out, the kids were chanting Wonka because he wore this outfit that made him look like Willy Wonka. He kind of leaned into that a little bit, but he's become the scary heel. They're not taunting him with the Wonkas anymore. He's kind of a menace now. And yeah, it's just been a really interesting journey. I've got 100,000 words I need to start combing through here soon, and finding that overall narrative and being able to tell each one of these kids' stories, and do them justice. And it's been a really fun project. I kind of wanted to do something this past year as kind of an homage to 10 years ago. I did the Eat Sleep Wrestle book, which is all
Yeah.
about the wrestling scene at that time. And a lot of the people that are in that book are in this one. Apollo Garvin is one of the veterans in that locker room. Drew Dillinger was one of the students back then, and now he's kind of one of again, a locker room leader and kind of a teacher's assistant who's always just kind of there. He wrestles and he knows things. We kind of determined he's the Tyrion Lannister of Grindhouse. And then Mitchell Huff. Mitchell Huff is the advanced trainer now, and he was a student back at that time. Somebody I interviewed for that book, and seeing the different approach that Mitchell takes with guys, and watching somebody like Berto, who's, in his 40s and knows his clock is ticking, but he's still training. He's still working. He carried a heavyweight championship belt for a promotion in Mexico this year, as well as the Grindhouse Pro Wrestling title. And seeing guys like him still wanting to learn and wanting to improve, and, working with Mitch, and trying to get better and trying to put together the best match he possibly can, when he's got the spotlights on him. So, yeah, it's been a really, really fun journey with this book.
Well, I look forward to all of them. I seriously do. I've got a bunch of your wrestling books. I'm slowly, gathering the whole John Cosper, catalog. Um, we need to do more updates as the year goes on. I shouldn't let a whole year go by because you got so much, especially this year coming up. You got so much stuff going on.
Oh,
Uh,
this past year I
uh,
haven't had anything, so this is great to catch
right,
up now and kind of preview what's happening.
right.
So
So in 2025, we're going to need to do a few more updates. But
yeah, yeah.
until then, tell everybody where they can find all of your stuff.
So you can find my fiction stuff at deadparkbooks.com. If you're a Kindle reader, good news, you can order the Kindle books directly from me as well as the paperback books. If you're like me and you're a snob and you want to hold the books, I got the paperback books. I'll sign them for you. I'll ship them out, throw some stickers in there for you as well. The four Dead Park books, the first four are already out. The fifth book is coming soon. There's a couple other things on there that people love. There's the noir fairy tales called The Big Bad Good Night. There's the kind of a thriller spy story, A Girl Most Likely to Kill You. We mentioned Die Alan Die earlier. Space Monster, I think, is still on there. So there's other stuff on there as well to check out. My wrestling stuff is all at eatsleepwrestle.com. Hey, we're sporting the shirt right there. Let me give this plug too. So there's a movie coming out in March about Mildred Burke, Queen of the Ring, the great Mildred
Awesome.
Burke, the great women's wrestling champion. It was filmed right here in Louisville, Kentucky. I got to know the director Ash Abelson actually about a year before the movie came here when he was starting to look in Louisville, and he actually called me and he asked me about a lady named Elvira Snodgrass who wrestled with Mildred Burke. Well, guess what? Elvira's in the movie.
Oh,
I
wow.
got to talk to, I'm going to butcher her name, but I'm going to try it. But I talked to the actress who played Elvira and got to tell some stories one night. The lovely June Byers, of course, she's the villain of the Mildred Burke film. Was she really a villain? You need to read this book and find out. She was very, very driven, very motivated lady. Had a lot in common with Mildred Burke, actually. Got to know her granddaughters through writing this book. Got to see a very different side of somebody who's often put out as the villain. Disproved once and for all, the fabulous Moolah never wrestled her for the title, never won the title from her. Moolah never beat any successor to Mildred Burke to lay a claim to the Women's World Wrestling Champion. June Byers held that title for almost 10 years. She retired January 1st, 1964 as champion. So take that, Moolah. While we're at it,
It's what I love, man.
a Black Panther, Jim Mitchell, is also in the movie. I got to see them filming his entrance. Let me tell you, that gave me goosebumps, man. I mean, seeing somebody dressed as the Black
Wow,
Panther
yeah.
coming out to go to the ring and work against Gorgeous George. Khalid Greenaway is playing him in the movie. He looks fantastic. I'm so excited to see part of his story told in this movie. I believe they're going to highlight the Gorgeous George match at the Olympic where they started the riot. It was kind of the inspiration for putting him in the movie. But yeah, the Black Panther will be in there. And I mean, if you're going to get those books, you might as well get Mars's book, Mars Bennett's The
Get them
Circus, the
all.
Pinup Queen, and one of my favorite biographies. But she was part of that whole era. She kind of came along later than the others. She's not going to be in the film. But part of what Mars, the attraction with Mars is, oh, she looks a lot like Mildred Burke, doesn't she? So that was kind of a selling point for her. Very talented. Unfortunately, she died of a car accident at age 35 in 1957. So didn't really get to see where her career might have gone on from there. But yeah, those are all at eatsleepwrestle.com. Come to my website and get those books. After you've read Queen of the Ring, you got to read Jeff Slean's book, Queen of the Ring. He did a fantastic job telling Mildred Burke's story. But there's stuff in these books that you won't find in his book, even about June Byers and about Elvira Snodgrass as well. Elvira beat Mildred for the title in 1938. She was known as Betty Nichols at the time. She wasn't yet Elvira Snodgrass, but she's the last woman before June Byers to beat Mildred Burke for the title. So there you go.
That's what I love about your books. You're not only a wrestling fan and a writer, you're also like a wrestling historian, and you bring out the real facts. And I love that about your books. Again, I love the fiction. I love the wrestling. You cover both ends of everything. I like half of my books that I own are either wrestling or horror stories. So
That's why we're friends, man.
exactly.
And we're long-suffering Chicago Bears
Oh,
fans.
don't get me started, man. Yeah. On that happy little note, John, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it. I encourage everyone to check out the Dead Park books. Check out eatsleepwrestle.com. A lot of great books. You go there, you're going to find at least one, probably several that you want to get.
If
John, thank you for your
we'll
time.
find something you like, I promise. They're great. I'm a storyteller, and it's not going to be dry, this and that, whatever. Come and I enjoy these stories. I enjoy telling the stories, and yeah, come check them out. If you're not sure what to read, drop me an email. Drop me an email through either the websites. Be happy to help you out.
Hey, you are a talented writer. You do write great stories, and I love reading them. John, thank you for your time. Have a happy new year, and we will definitely catch up as your books come out. Well, by the time the shows, it'll be this year. So we'll
Yep.
say this year. Thanks,
No,
John. Take care, man.
thanks.